Hey Wiz, last week we built a Fang stock predictor with CrewAI to look at Facebook and Apple. You ready to take it to the next level?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Instead of Fang, let's do Mang today. Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, and GameStop. The 1, 2, 3, and wild card of market cap. You down?
I'm super down.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Also, let's do LLM Ops on our multi-agent system. We'll call it AgentOps. Is that legit? Is what I'm saying making sense?
It's making a lot of sense. Yes.
Okay. So just so we're sure, let's go ahead and bring up the expert on the topic that we have the pleasure of joining us today, Alex Riebman, co-founder and CEO of AgentOps. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks, Dr. Greg. It's great to be here with you and the Wiz. Let's talk AgentOps.
Yeah, man. So what's your take? Is AgentOps the same or is it different from LLM Ops? Is it just like agent-centric LLM Ops, or is it something else, something nobody's heard of before?
So with LLM Ops, the LLM Ops paradigm is designed to integrate with your traditional observability and telemetry stack. But with AgentOps, you're building these self-driving programs. They're almost like autonomous decision makers. And when we built our first agent, when this first came out about a year ago, we realized how difficult it was and how traditional observability wasn't solving the problem. There was a lot of issues around decision-making, tool usage, memory. And now that we have multi-agent frameworks, how do you make sure that you understand what's happening between agent A, agent B, agent C, and just understand and test these things? So there's a huge variety of tasks that aren't covered by the original LLM Ops stack.
Is this sounding legit to you, Wiz? Is this the same thing you saw about a year ago when you started building with agents?
I think this is looking pretty good. Yeah. I think so. It's definitely a problem that needs solving.
And it seems like there's people racing to solve it too. Isn't that right, Alex? Like you're right at the edge, competing with some of the best in the market, right?
That's right. We're seeing a lot of frameworks that are popping off that are trying to create their own observability solutions. So a big one that a lot of people have heard of is LangChain, and they've rolled out LangSmith. And I think that's a fantastic product for applications built using the LangChain framework. However, a lot of people, they're deciding to choose their own methods, right? Instead of building observability on top of an existing framework, they want to try something by building their own agents, right? It's easy to roll out your own agents sometimes, and sometimes they want to try third-party frameworks like CrewAI or AutoGen, and there's just no observability frameworks for that. So we really specialize in making that 0 to 1 jump and saying, okay, it's hard to log, it's hard to monitor, hard to test this stuff. We make it as simple as possible for as many frameworks as we can.
Nice. Okay. I'm loving the tool agnostic open source vibes from you guys. And right on, Wiz. Thanks, Alex. It's about time to dig a little bit deeper, and we'll have you guys back real soon. Let's get into some concepts and code that will help us work our way up to the level of abstraction that will allow us to get a real clear view of the AgentOps landscape. I'm Dr. Greg, that's the Wiz. We got Alex with us today, and we're all co-founders, and we are talking today about monitoring agents. We heard words like observability and ops, and the tool that we noticed when we started building with CrewAI was AgentOps. We wanted to take it and see what it was all about. So today, we're going to take the build that we did with CrewAI last week, and we're going to see how we can leverage AgentOps to imagine sort of deploying this to production even faster. We're going to take that sort of SEC filings, quarterly and annual, and see if we can predict some new stock stuff, but more importantly, predict exactly how the AgentOps tooling, the agent-specific ops tooling is going to be useful for us and for you guys as you build, ship, and share production LLM applications. All right, let's get into it today. We want to make sure as we sort of align our aim to the session that after today, we have an idea of this agent-specific tooling. The real awesome piece that is kind of like the whole shebang of the AgentOps, at least user interface, as far as I can tell, is the waterfall, the session waterfall. It's very cool. It's very straightforward. If you're familiar with traces, you'll get a lot out of the agent waterfall. We want to understand how to leverage agent ops on top of a multi-agent crew, and then really try to see the big picture of how this can accelerate putting agents into production. So we're going to talk about our Fang stock predictor, and then we're going to get into agent ops. We're going to see a build today. We're going to keep the discussion going with Alex. Please drop your questions along the way into the chat. Alex is available today to answer them directly if you have questions about agent ops. So recall, as we get into our stock predictor, that CrewAI is really helping us to accomplish tasks given agents and access to tools. We learned last week about the different constructs in CrewAI, from tasks and agents to crews. And it's all sort of baked into the best practices of prompt engineering. You know, being very clear and specific with definition of your tasks is really important. Even incentivizing, hey, we'll give you 50K, we'll give you 10K to do your best work on task one, you know, do something. And even on task two, take in as input to task one, do something else, right? So the tasks is very straightforward. You'll notice that we put into the task the agent. The agent, of course, has access to tools. And we continue to leverage the best practices of prompt engineering, like be very specific about the role that is being played, the persona of the agent, even the emotion of it can be very, very important to get a different output. So we see things like you are a helpful assistant all the time as a baseline for models that are very helpful and following instructions. We see things like you are a teacher grading a quiz all the time in evaluation strategies. And in the agents within CrewAI, we see, hey, tell me the role, tell me actually more about the role, tell me the backstory, and tell me what the goal is of this agent. So we sort of define agents in this role, goal, backstory trifecta here, and we put agents together with tasks to build and kick off our crew. It's pretty simple. And for more information, check out the event we did last week. The tools, as we mentioned, they're all sort of just search and retrieval, and they're helping the agents to augment their context. So agents with tools accomplishing tasks. We saw that we could build a stock analysis example, taking SEC filings of quarterly and annual reports, the 10Q and the 10K docs, and get a recommendation on different stocks using a financial analyst. The prompt looks like this: provide financial advice that's actionable. We could combine the financial analysis into research and, you know, continuing to dig deeper into the numbers that are found. So for those insights and recommendations, sort of the classic data science here. And then after the research, we can say, okay, well, what kind of investment advice can we get from this? And we saw that for Fang companies, we asked, well, what about like Apple and what about Meta? We felt pretty good about Meta because I think Meta is kind of crushing it, formerly Facebook. And we saw our crew decided, okay, moderate buy, Meta. Maybe you should invest. Apple, that's a hold. Today, we're going to take it to the next level. We're going to start by adding in AgentOps. Now, AgentOps seems pretty cool from all their materials that you can find online. For instance, they come out swinging. They say AI agents suck. We're fixing that. Let's see, right? Let's check it out. What are they doing to fix it exactly? Well, they're helping developers build, evaluate, and monitor AI agents. This is something we're hearing a lot, as Alex mentioned, from Langsmith and others. A lot of people are working on this evaluation and monitoring. One of the things that I thought was interesting in their documentation, they say AgentOps solves what terminal can't. So if we sort of rewind the clock back to when they started building this, they noticed, hey, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's sort of happening and being spit out in the terminal. And I'm really not able to follow all of these agentic sort of reasoning behaviors very clearly in a very straightforward way with the tooling that existed at the time. And so they built their own solution, which, you know, we love to see that. Talk about building, shipping, and sharing like legends. And the core principles of AgentOps are threefold. So the whole idea is they want to maximize functionality and minimize implementation. Auto instrumenting. So this is basically like, you know, put the sensors on the LLM calls and see exactly what's going on, and make sure you put the magnifying glass in so you can see each and every time what's going in, what's coming out of each LLM call, whether that be a function call, whether that be a chat model call, or anything else. Decorators, this is something that all of you that write Python code are probably familiar with, right? Sort of the meta function. With decorators, you can use AgentOps to add code to your existing functions and classes. So it can kind of sit atop and just sort of observe, right? Observability, what's going on. And the process monitoring is all about the health of your system in the end, especially when you're in production. You never want to go down. You want to make sure that you're up and running all the time. The sessions are key here, and the sessions are driven by events. So the session, and what we're seeing here is a session waterfall. And we'll talk more about this. Wiz will go into some detail on our specific use case today. But a session is like a whole execution instance of the workflow, and it brings together LLMs, tools, and actions. These are the primary types of events. And what we're doing is we're basically monitoring each event, each LLM call, each tool call, each action taken. Remember, agents are simply the reasoning action pattern. And so we do some reasoning, we take an action, and we continue the loop. So the events themselves, there's actually a fourth type of event that's quite important. It's called the error event. And so there's four types. There's actions, there's LLMs, and there's tools. There's also errors. And so keeping track of what errors are happening, what's going on behind the scenes, what's happening, you know, to your events overall, what types, the timing. This is really important, especially as a lot of people start using your application and, you know, potentially have errors while they're using it. Definitely want to make sure we're tracking those. We've talked a lot about agents in past events. You know, the big idea is that agents with access to tools can solve interesting problems. In a tool like CrewAI, they're actually zoomed in. You don't give it sort of a generic problem, but rather you give it a specific task to solve. Now, from an agent ops perspective, we hear that an agent is an autonomous entity. We heard that from Alex earlier with its own memory and capabilities. And we've talked about how agents can go into multi-agent systems in the past, right? With just multiple independent agents. That's it. And it's about being connected in a specific way. That specific way that the agents are connected is going to help us to group responsibilities. It's going to help us to separate prompts and just do things a lot cleaner, like the investment analyst, research analyst, and financial advisor we saw earlier. And according to AgentOps, we see exactly the same thing, right? Multi-agent frameworks, all about those specialized skills, trying to achieve specific goals. So they're totally in alignment with everything we've seen from other frameworks, from everything that we're seeing. So let's see, how can we decide, should we invest in these Mang companies? Well, let's take a look at NVIDIA and Microsoft and GME with the Mang stock predictor, with AgentOps, sending it over to the Wiz to walk us through how this was built and how we can monitor each and everything that happens. Wiz, over to you, man.
Yes, thank you, Greg. Okay, so this is pretty It's like a common theme that I get to say this for all the visibility tools that we have the chance to do events on. But the idea is, it's really very straightforward to integrate AgentOps with CrewAI. It's one line of code, and it's a couple specific pip installs, and you're good to go. So the idea is, when we're talking about AgentOps, obviously something useful is to think about the fact that we need like an agent, and so we're just repurposing the one we did last week. So what we've got here is just the GitHub. The GitHub's pretty straightforward. We're just going to go through it a little bit, and then we'll look at the actual an actual run of this tool. But the idea is, right, so we have our CrewAI repo. We've made one change in it, and that change is to add AgentOps.init, and then we've tagged it with stock analysis crew. And that's it for AgentOps. So I know the event is about the tool. That's all it needs, right? And now it is AgentOpsing, which is pretty legit. So the basic idea of the actual crew is straightforward enough. We have some agents. The agents have some tasks. We set them up into a crew, and then we kick off them doing their work. So it's if you want to do a deep dive there, it's just what we did last week. So let's go ahead and we'll pop over to the VS Code window. And so I'm just going to stop my screen here, and then I will present the VS Code window for you guys. And the idea is that we will be running this analysis tool, and we'll use the crew that we just looked at to do that. So if we could go ahead and put up the VS Code window, that'd be super duper. And then we'll go ahead and run the application. As soon as we can see the window, I'll start. Yes, Python main.py. Okay, so we're just waiting for that window. While we're waiting for that window, the idea is that for every, AgentOps is basically tuned into OpenAI. So for every call that's happening with OpenAI, they're going to be able to understand that flow, and then they're going to build a trace, and they're going to populate it to the actual dashboard that they have. It's also compatible with Cohere. It's also compatible with an additional local LLM. And if we could just get the VS Code window put up so that I can share that from Sarah, thanks so much. Perfect. Okay, so we'll run this. And what we're going to do is we're going to run this on, of course, GameStop. Yeah, classic. So what's going to happen is going to kick off. Now, something that's happening in this trace, right, is we're seeing kind of like these errors. Now, these errors are pretty, they're annoying. And we don't really know why they're happening from the terminal. And this is something that I really like AgentOps' kind of, positioning on when it comes to when you're reading through the documentation, right? It's like you can't get everything from the terminal. Yes, we know that, we encountered this error, so it's nice to see there, but we don't know, why it encountered the error. And you might say, well, how is this attached to AgentOps? Well, we have the actual session replay that we can go to right through here, right? So this is going to be able to show us in just a moment what we're going to be able to see. But the idea is that we go through our tools. We have a thought. The search results do not provide specific information about upcoming events or announcements. However, it seems GameStop is planning to release new video games in 2024 and beyond. I mean, I should hope so. And then we get this finished chain. And then we go to the next agent, right? Professional research analyst, tasked output GameStop, has recently been in the news due to a few key events. A prominent figure in the GameStop saga, Roaring Kitty, has made significant purchase in Chewy, which has led to speculation about it, and on, right? So the idea is we go in, we go out, we go in, we go out. It's awesome. We have all of these agent chains, but it's kind of hard to see what's exactly happening, right? So we're going to go ahead and need to go back to the browser in order to look at the actual game, trace here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to present my browser window, and then we're going to need to make sure that pops up. Perfect. And the idea is that the window is going to show us everything we need to know about these sessions, okay? So the sessions are essentially each run of the tool is going to be an independent session. So what that means is that you'll see that I have a bunch here, and they're in a bunch of different statuses, right? But the idea is that we have the ability to, we'll have the ability to see which sessions failed, which sessions didn't fail, why sessions failed. The model produced invalid content. Consider modifying the prompt. This is from OpenAI. This model's maximum context length is 8K, but we went over that. So the idea is that we have some ability to see why things failed. However, this is just a dashboard, right? And it's really good. It shows us the kinds of errors we have, how many we have. It shows us a lot of cool information, how many tokens, the total cost, the average cost per session, the average tokens per successful session. So it's got a ton of stuff, but then we can go into the session drill down. This is kind of where the magic is, right? So we can see how many events we have, how many of them failed. We can see the LLM costs. We can see how many prompt tokens we had. We can see everything that we need to about this. We can see our tags. Our tags is the one that we set up in the actual thing. And then we can see the event time distribution for our agents. You'll see this is for all agents, and we'll get to that in a second. We can see the event types, tools versus LLMs. We can see repeat thoughts, right? This is very cool. So this is going to show us if we're repeating a lot of information. And then finally, of course, we can see the session replay. Now, this is a classic kind of diagram, right? You love it. We can look into every single one of these, boxes to see what they're doing. They're beautifully color-coded for us. We have tool, error, LLM, and action. Now, we got some reds, right? So in the terminal, we saw these reds, and they said exactly this, right? Got an unexpected argument ticker. But we can't know why from the terminal why this is happening, but if we click show trace, we're going to be able to look through the trace and see exactly why this is going to happen. And what it turns out is happening, and this is only something I discovered through AgentOps, is that the prompt indicates the wrong format. So the actual prompt from the tool that you get is incorrect, right? So the idea is that the LLM is able to fix this, and it's able to cause the actual prompt to go through just from just through its ability to reason or emulate reasoning. But without actually seeing this, I never would have been able to figure out exactly, it's pretty clear what was happening, but the idea is that it would have been much harder to figure that out just from the terminal, right? And so this is where this tool is doing well. Additionally, let's just look at one more trace before I send you guys back to Greg. If we look at this trace here, I noticed that one of the tools was failing, and it was a tool that hadn't failed before. It was the SEC tool. And again, we get this kind of, this trace that shows us exactly why this tool failed, right? Which is that there was no more credits. So the idea is that, these kinds of observability platforms, letting us really dig right into what's happening, letting us see the conversation history. This is kind of what the terminal output is, right? These are tools that help us to understand the application at a much deeper level and help us to understand what's happening. Coming back to this agent real quick, you can see we have the ability to even zoom into each agent, right? So we can see what agents are causing the most work, the most calls, the kinds of work that they're doing. All of this available, again, we just got to talk about it again through one line of code. Okay, so for that, I'm going to remind you guys to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and etc. And I'm going to send you back to Greg.
Yeah, I like that. I like that agent sort of picked a different agent, and then everything just sort of quickly populates. That's a sort of, multi-agent vibe that you would only get in that sort of setup. So very cool. Okay, well, we'll continue the discussion shortly, Wiz. We did see that with our Mang predictor, just in case you guys are wondering, like Microsoft, solid investment. Again, not investment advice, everybody. Apple, we actually ran this time was with OpenAI tooling instead of Anthropic's Claude tooling. Still a hold. And we ran it again, still a hold. And oh my God, can't believe it. NVIDIA, we recommend buying. Well, we don't. The agent crew, the autonomous agent crew recommended buying. So what we'll do today is we'll sort of formally wrap up here, AgentOps being super easy to integrate, especially with CrewAI. The core concepts we went over, one line of code. It came out of this idea of solving really what terminals can't. And that was born of their own experience on the founding team. And then the session waterfall really is kind of the key aspect that's going to be real useful, we think. And so, we'll open up a long form discussion now. I want to welcome back up Alex and Wiz to the stage. And I want to sort of take some time to dig in here to some of these ideas. And if you have questions, please do use Slido or the YouTube live chat to jump in. But Alex, you mentioned Langsmith earlier. You mentioned sort of folks out there building similar tooling. One of the questions that I have personally, and that I think our audience is also curious about, is like, why should one sort of use AgentOps versus something else? Why is this an important piece of the stack to really focus on? Are there really big user interface differences, or where does this kind of manifest itself when you're trying to do ops on your production LLM application that uses agents? And then I think you're on mute.
I'm on mute, yeah. So absolutely. So if you're using a framework like LangChain, you can use LangSmith. It's a very easy plugin. I'd highly recommend you check that out. But one big difference and core difference between a lot of these tools and what we're doing with AgentOps is that a lot of these tools were built for an era where you were having deterministic programs. So basically, you have some sort of telemetry sync, you have metrics so you can know how your users use your application, and then you also have basically traces that let you see the waterfall diagrams. The challenge with the agents is that they're very non-deterministic, right? And not only that, we saw that there's a lot of multi-agent frameworks popping out right now. So we have CrewAI, and then AutoGen is a very popular one also from Microsoft. And we realized that these multi-agent frameworks are probably going to be the future. Most of them were lacking a really sophisticated monitoring tool because what was out there just really, really didn't solve the problem. So we ended up building first-party integrations with a lot of these frameworks and just made it as simple as possible to integrate. So we do what's called auto-instrumenting here. It just basically one line of code and then everything is automatically tracked. So instead of having to manually define things and link it up to your traditional telemetry sync, AgentOps just does everything all in one. We really try to make it feel as magic and as simple as possible.
Nice. So then, like, when you look at kind of the landscape ahead and you look at where some of these companies are going, you think about where you guys are going, like, how do you plan on trying to really add enough value to this market to, gain adoption of your tool, to stay in business, to, kind of play out on this edge and do it in such a way that's sort of, the value proposition is there, it's uniquely differentiated. I mean, how are you thinking about, the rest of 2024 into 2025 for your tool, relative to these others?
So we're extremely community driven. Most of the product decisioning and most of the frameworks we adopted are all coming from people who are joining the AgentOps community and telling us, I'm trying out this framework, or I'm trying to improve Crew, but I'm having this issue. So we're really, really tight with the community on this, and they're just helping us guide a lot of decision making. In terms of kind of the future of this stuff, we're really just like just as a general software architecture, everybody's moving towards the paradigm shift of agents becoming a mainstay in how we interact with computing. So we have developers right now, and we have APIs. Developers talk to APIs. But then we're going to have AI agents. So you're going to have developers talk to agents, and agents talk to APIs, and agents talk to agents, right? And so what is that framework going to look like? And there's just too many traditional failings with the way that we monitor software that it's not going to be a simple way to do it. As far as product decisioning going, we're trying to take the most popular frameworks that are out there and just help basically developers get the most simple observability possible, just so they can debug these things, because these are very, very powerful tools, but we're slowed down because it's so hard to debug them. So just basically getting a wide span of what's out there, making sure that everyone's super happy with Crew, with AutoGen, and all the other guys.
Yeah. I mean, we try to pick, some of the most popular tools too, and try to figure out, okay, what is our community interested in building with? What are the folks that are out there on the edge building all the time, picking up as tools? Wiz, I wonder what your opinion is on this sort of paradigm shift of I love this idea of, the developers hitting APIs. Now the agents are going to be hitting APIs, and the agents are going to be hitting other APIs instead of just developers talking to each other. This is the first kind of conceptualization I've heard of that. I think that's true, right? I mean, that's pretty cool to sort of be at the vanguard of that. AgentOps, I like that. I don't know. Do you have any additional thoughts on sort of the future of programming there?
Oh yeah, no, just some thoughts on the future program. No, I mean it's correct, right? So I think the idea is that we're going to start to see companies have kind of agent-centric APIs, or APIs that are meant to be accessed by some autonomous tools, and build separate packages for those versus just kind of traditional human consumption. I think the thing to keep in mind with those APIs and the agents is that right now we're in the most early stage of this that we'll ever be in. We'll only ever get further along into the paradigm of agents, and so these kinds of tools right now, we can kind of see parallels, right, to early, when you look at early WandB and the features that WandB had when it first dropped, or you look at things like ML Flow when it first dropped, right? The feature set was hyper specific, very, very difficult to understand, how it's going to evolve. And then we look at these tools now, and they're so well understood. They're ubiquitous across the industry. And I think that's the thing that we're still trying to, we're kind of feeling around in the dark a little bit. But tools like AgentOps or other visibility frameworks give us something that we can use to understand how these systems actually work, how we want them to work, how to guide them away from how we don't want them to work. And so I think that visibility piece is really one of the most important for ensuring we get to a future of programming that's reasonable and not so just trying stuff, right? We got to get to the well engineered from the current state. So
yeah, and I like the way that this sort of comes together in the focus on what's useful for companies and for enterprise. I mean, a lot of people are sort of focused on this, oh my God, developers are going to be automated, but I think that's a defensive stance, and I really like this stance, Alex, of well, actually take the offensive stance that you're going to be the one building the agents and overseeing the teams of agents. And so I wonder, what are you guys seeing right now in terms of people using your tools to actually deploy agentic applications to production? I mean, this is something that, quite frankly, we're not seeing a whole lot of right now. It's most of the time it's RAG. It's very rarely agents. I mean, what are you guys seeing with your customers, with your users? Are people succeeding with agents and then multi-agents? Is anybody actually doing this in prod right now? What are you seeing from your perspective?
Absolutely. So the two most popular frameworks that we've been seeing are CrewAI and AutoGen. And the kind of the three main use cases we've actually been seeing for agents in general are research, chat Q&A, and basically text summarization. So you can kind of think of text summarization as something along the lines of RAG plus some other things, which is not super complicated, but oftentimes you need to link together a lot of tools to make it work out. Chat Q&A is where things become a lot more interesting. We've seen a lot of profitability here. So for example, one of our users they have a human-based customer support system, and they are a paid-only product. And now what they've done is they've expanded into the free-to-play realm, right? So they've offered their software as a free license to some users, but these users are wasting a lot of time with the customer support agents. So what they're trying to build is an agent framework that can basically find documentation, talk to tickets, and triage, and basically figure out how to navigate issues with the free users rather than having the human agents doing it. We've also seen users who are building agents that manage Airbnb properties. So we know one team that they've managed 200 or at least 200 Airbnb properties, all with AI agents. And they even simulate them in such a way that they speak and have latency like humans. So if you ask them a question, they'll take a few minutes to get back to you. And that's artificial and not on purpose. So chat Q&A and these chat support bots are a huge win case here. And then lastly is the research, right? So the demo we just showed off is doing stock analysis research, right. But we've seen them connect with huge databases, proprietary data sets, data streams, news sources, etc., in order to collate information and inform theses. And big component of that is actually creating accurate citations. So there's amazing frameworks like Cohere that offer this kind of stuff. But being able to create synthesized research with agents is a huge win, connecting the right data sources and APIs to it.
Yeah. Okay. So you said research, chat QA, and what was the third one?
Text summarization.
Text summarization. Okay. So love that, and I love that if you book an Airbnb today, you might actually be talking to an AI. That's amazing. Okay. So then, I mean, I'm also curious about industries. So you mentioned Airbnb, but I'm hearing from some of our other partners, it's insurance, it's financial services, and it's healthcare. Are these sort of the primary ones for you guys that you're seeing as well? Is anything else in the mix today?
We've seen a variety of folks who are building in healthcare, more on the experimental basis, and they're actually very interested in using offline models, namely because of HIPAA compliance. You don't want to send customer data or potentially risky data to a third-party service that can't be vetted necessarily. And we're seeing some really, really interesting applications there, like helping staff and monitor supplies for hospitals. So one interesting use case from a Discord member in our server was basically they have these procedures that the surgeons need to make, but they oftentimes over-request by huge margins how much equipment they actually need because they don't even know, like on the top of their hand, what a surgery requires. So this agent's able to cross-validate with the inventory they have, let's say, medical supplies and equipment, and what the procedure actually demands. And that way they don't have to leave a lot of resources to waste, and they don't have to occupy and book the wrong rooms at the same time. So that's just like one minor use case, right? And they're still figuring it out. I think it's going to be a little far from production for the time being. We're also seeing a lot of folks who are in finance doing this, right? For the research agents specifically, tons and tons of equities analysis, reading news streams, connecting with things like Morningstar and FactSet, so on and so forth, to just basically collate information. That's been a huge win for analysts in general.
Yeah, 100%. So on the sort of, on-prem side, we've got a question from the audience saying, can you actually self-host this? Like if the hospitals wanted to leverage AgentOps, can you do this on premises? Okay.
Short answer is yes. Long answer is please email us. We've done a few on-prem discussions with users. There's just a variety of complications that make it a little more difficult to open source every single aspect of the stack. But yes, send us an email, go on Discord. Let's have that conversation. Happy to do it.
Okay, awesome. Other questions from Slido recording? Yes, it'll be up. And then, does AgentOps help correlate events across app servers and LLMs? Alex, you on that one?
I'm going to extrapolate what I think he means or they mean by that, which is how do you correlate events? Short answer is actually we've been working on this, right? So how do you make sure, suppose you're doing a chat Q&A bot, how do you make sure that the sentiment is overall positive and all the responses are more or less aligned? So we've been working on some embeddings-based algorithms to be able to track that kind of stuff and make sure that your responses and your outcomes are all aligned with that. So short answer, it's in the pipeline. Long answer, if you actually have any ideas specifically, let's get in touch. Leave maybe a screenshot or an idea in the Discord. Happy to jam on it. We're very community driven with these features. So if you want to see it, let's talk.
Yeah. And then I love this question from Lucinda. Is there a tool like AgentOps, but for RAG ops? Love AgentOps dashboards and Viz. Is it the same? I mean, what's going on here, Alex?
I have seen that Arise actually has a few instrumenters for RAG. It's not the most extensive, I think. I think they only have a few connectors with a bunch of RAG databases. But yes, I have seen it. So they do things from everything from re-ranking, from retrieval. They're able to track that. RAG ops more specifically, I think, refers to the overall, rather than just the monitoring bit, the accuracy bit. And there's a few companies right now that are working just solely on RAG evals. So one example is called RAGAS, RAGAS, which is a really interesting one to check out. But generally speaking, RAG ops is still also quite early, right? There's a big debate whether RAG is going to stick around forever. But I think for the time being, the number one thing you can do is come up with a cohesive set of valuations that you can benchmark against to know whether your RAG operations are performing as expected. Yeah.
And Wiz, I wonder, like, RAG ops. We haven't used this much, but is this worth talking about? I don't even know where this new buzzword came from. Have you heard of this? Is this something that you're tracking?
Every software development process can have an operational or ops component to it.
Yeah.
DevOps, RagOps. I think specifically for RagOps, you can look at things like monitoring the or providing visibility into like the retrieval stack, right? So understanding not just that there was context, but understanding the kinds of context that were retrieved. If there's, say, re-ranking, understand the difference between the initial context set and then the retained context set from re-ranking. There's a lot of different ways that you can think about kind of, what essentially what we're talking about in that case is LLM ops plus retrieval ops, right? There's a lot of different ways that we can think about that. But in terms of these being an individual platform or like one platform serving all these use cases, I think like AgentOps, we're going to see more specialized platforms that are going to come up and teach us kind of the best ways. Love the Ragus shout out, of course, because Ragus does care deeply about evaluating, right, the retrieval process. And so through that evaluation, you can gain visibility, right, if you just trace it. But ultimately, these like RAG ops as a thing, I think we should separate ourselves from that and move more towards like LLM ops, retriever ops. We have now agent ops, right? So this is the way that I can see it going, where we want those, but at some point when you're looking at the big pile of traces and the big pile of information you've collected, we need as humans, unfortunately, a way to act like interface with that. And so I think having these kind of containers is the best thing. And Lusk says, of course, yes, ops, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, we got this 4 patterns that we're always talking about: prompt engineering, RAG, fine tuning, agents. I guess you got like prompt ops, you got like fine tuning ops. That fine tuning ops, what is that? Just ML ops at that point, and then, so like, I think one of the things we started with, Alex, and maybe this is a good time to sort of dive into this, is like, what exactly is the difference between LLM ops and agent ops? Mm-hmm. And I think you have a chart that you can sort of walk people through that might be useful for folks out there. And I wonder if we can go ahead and bring that thing up here. And maybe this will help people understand sort of the anatomy of the, at least, agent applications.
Absolutely. So I'll use my little red marker here. So the way to think about agent ops in general, not just as the company, is that underlying everything, you're going to have these large language models that power the applications. And I would say the thing that sets apart an agent from your standard ChatGPT or chatbot is that the agents have access to decision-making tools that change the world state. So I'll say it again, tools that can change the world state. That's what sets an agent apart. But on top of that, there's all sorts of other data you want to track about your agent across the lifecycle. So namely speaking, you have a lot of metadata, like your agent ID. You want to know, make sure like what model is it using, what's the context limit, what's the history of that agent, what tools it has access to, the temperature, so on and so forth, who's the provider, where is it running, all these kinds of things are very valuable. But second to that is the context history. So what memories does your agent have? What has it seen before? What does it know, rather than just having started from scratch as a dry run? So that's a big aspect of it. Another thing that we're seeing a lot of is a lot of memory. So this is both RAG, but also kind of like being able to do time-sensitive index memory. So RAG actually has a big weakness, which is it loses time sensitivity. So for example, if in a customer support, you might have a thing where somebody buys a ticket and then refunds it. If you ask the RAG document, does the user own the ticket? It wouldn't actually be able to say, because the embeddings are not time aware necessarily. So external memory is kind of a big aspect of this. The way that we're also seeing a lot of the agents running out is that instead of having the agent being self-guided through a prompt, you oftentimes have a sidecar manager. So for example, you have like the crew executor, and you have the AutoGen manager that work to kind of plan agents for them. But also sometimes you have like task lists. You have things that make it easy for agents to just like follow instructions. Those are like kind of emerging patterns we've been seeing a lot of. And then the last big emerging pattern we've been seeing a lot of is multi-agent tenancy. So this is like frameworks like Crew, where you can spin up multiple agents in a crew to work together. It's becoming a very, very popular pattern. But also speaking, you can have agents that are built with Crew chat with agents that are built with AutoGen, and chat with agents that are built with LangChain and Llama Index, and so on and so forth. So it's not just single framework multi-agents, it's actually multiple agents chatting with other agents from multi-agent frameworks, which is a mouthful to say, but we are seeing a lot of this. So anyway, long story short, when you are thinking about LLM ops versus agent ops, you want to be thinking about the full stack of what is your agent going to see across its lifecycle, and what aspects are you tracking here that you are tracking with your traditional observability and your traditional aspects of metadata. So anyway, that's the long explanation, the long-winded one.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. So yeah, you're reminding me of this sort of idea that you're gonna have multi-agent teams at company A, multi-agent teams at company B, or site A and B. They're going to be communicating with one another, so there's this sort of overlap. There's also humans in the loop, so there's all of these different sort of kind of auto instrumentation, first principle things to instrument in these systems that just haven't really existed elsewhere, right? I mean, that seems to me to be one of the key insights I'm getting out of this session. If we think about agent ops, it's like there's just a lot of pieces to the puzzle of many agentic systems. Okay. So, one of the things that I noticed when RAG assessment and the Ragus guys were coming up is they were sort of like building this tool. It was open source. It seemed like it was on a similar path that kind of you guys are on. And then we saw we saw LangChain, we saw Llama Index started to build out their own evaluators and their own evaluation tool sets. And then ultimately it seemed like they said, well, actually we're focused on this more end-to-end thing. We're not really going to zoom in and try to get like evaluation 100% right. And then subsequently, the Ragus guys, got some YC funding, and they're off to the races trying to do it right. Do you see like a similar thing? Are you feeling a similar thing happening here with the industry and with you guys? Is the focus going to be what pushes you through on a differentiation scale, where everybody else is trying to solve end to end? Your focus is going to be able to differentiate you. Like to me, that's what it feels like. Is that what it feels like to you as well?
So I think there's kind of two aspects you can take this in, which is correct, right? You want to have the specialization, but you can also be kind of like the general plug. So the way to kind of think about this is that if you're just specializing in evals, you probably don't want to be focusing on instrumenting code. You don't want to be supporting frameworks. You don't want to be doing a lot of other things. So when it comes to the way we think about it with AgentOps is we're kind of like the data sink, right? So every time you run an agent, all the data is being collected in the AgentOps platform that you can see. You can go back in time, you can debug, so on and so forth. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to focus necessarily on evals or fine tuning.
Mm-hmm.
We want to have these features available to users, but we don't want to specialize in it. So we actually work with a lot of partners on this aspect. So for example, one of our partners is called Prompt Armor. They do prompt level security. So for example, a lot of agents are not exactly safe. They're at risk for PII leakage. They're at risk for data exfiltration. They're at risk for becoming toxic to users. So being able to have these monitoring tools on top that are built by specialists plugged into the AgentOps stack is a huge win. Same thing goes for fine tuning. We work with a partner called OpenPipe, and OpenPipe is able to build models with comparable performance to GPT-4 that are 12 times cheaper, which is a huge win. And all you need is somewhere between 100 to 1,000 plus examples. And you can collect all of that data by just instrumenting your code with AgentOps. So that's a huge win. We can work with specialists to basically put all this together and create like a safer, more reliable agent stack.
Nice. Okay, well, let's go ahead and finish up the session today with some of the questions from the chat. Chaitali asks, how to keep up with this dynamic landscape? This is particularly interesting. For instance, if we use Claude 3.5 Sonnet last week, can we use it this week? Let's go ahead and I'd like to hear your take on this. This is a question we get from our audience all the time, Alex. So how do you keep up? Like, what do you look at exactly?
I follow kind of a variety of newsletters when it comes to this kind of stuff. So the Neuron Daily is a great one. Rundown AI is great. The Cerebral Valley newsletter is where I got a lot of my feed from. Huge fan of that. Not just everything in the San Francisco ecosystem in general. But by and large, I actually read a lot of stuff from Twitter. So a lot of the research I see is coming out just by researchers posting, hey, look at this thing I'm working on. And it's not maybe the most productive news feed because there's a lot of distractions on that site, but X/Twitter has just it has a plethora of content. You see very, very cool demos. In addition to that, I would say that one of the best things you can do in general is take a trip and seeing what the San Francisco AI ecosystem is like. Because by and large, like this is probably the best place in the world to be building AI applications and ambitious work. And people out here, they're plugged in with all the sources, and even just spending maybe a week or a weekend at a hackathon is just a fantastic way to learn about what other people are thinking about.
Yeah, I actually super agree with that. That's one of the things that we encourage, folks that take our boot camp to go do is to go get out and realize, like, now that you've learned these things, look how close to the edge you are. Look how quickly it can go. And if you just spend some time with people that you sort of view as being right out there at the edge, it's amazing what kind of, encouragement that can provide one. So Wiz, not to keep, blowing you off from questions here, but it's like this is the Alex show today. Lucinda asks, you guys working with DSPY? Does this stuff work with DSPY?
We have had several people ask about this recently. We have an open GitHub issue. We are looking into it actively. If you have any specific insights, please leave a comment because we actually don't know too much about DSPY. We'd love to work with them. But yeah, it's been a huge ask recently. So it's coming.
Yeah, Wiz, what do you think? How do these things interact? We just did one DSPY event. We focused on prompting. We're doing another one focused on RAG. And then the next one after that would ostensibly be focused on agents. I don't know, Wiz, how do you see these two tools interacting?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because at the end of the day, in its worst case scenario state, AgentOps does still track LLM calls, right? And you are still going to make LLM calls. The issue, I think, with the DSPY integration in terms of when does DSPY call out to the LLM, it's a little bit interesting because they use it to generate like synthetic examples. So you could use it to say trace the synthetic examples. As far as like using it for RAG or using it for agents, it's basically the same thing that we're seeing in a lot of other frameworks. which is this idea of like having some object or class that is, this thing, and then it's going to call it to the LLM in this situation. So I think it would be possible to integrate. I think the biggest component to the integration would be having useful insight into DSPY's automatic, prompt optimization strategies that they're using, so we can actually get more visibility into those. Again, love the positioning from AgentOps in this one, right? The terminal does help. The output does, verbose equal true, does give you some insight, but it doesn't give you as much insight. You can't see as much, and you certainly can't look at it in detail and retrospectively like you can with tools like AgentOps. So I think, that's a big potential value add. As far as like the actual technical implementation of the integration, I'm not sure DSPY is set up for these kinds of integrations in current state, but I'm sure as they gain more and more popularity, they'll have to bite the bullet and add something.
That's some AI Makerspace community stuff right there. Hey, that's a great opportunity to build, ship, and share something that's worth remembering. And it's almost like I'm imagining if you took the verbose equals true output and you put it into ChatGPT and you said, analyze this and make me a dashboard, it would make you AgentOps, right? It's something like that. Okay, very cool then. A couple more questions before we close out the day. I think we kind of covered Don by showing your wide landscape there. How to decide whether to use agents versus RAG ops. I think it's pretty simple. It depends on what you're building, right? Is this, can I see some head nods from you guys? Anything else to add here?
Strong head nod.
Strong head nod.
Building an agent. Assuming this question says whether to use AgentOps versus RAG ops for performance. If you have an agentic application, probably AgentOps. If you're just doing RAG, I would say
probably RAG ops. Yeah. Okay. So, do you know of any agent marketplace? Chaitali asks. What do you think?
I know a few. So one of them is still in alpha. It's called Walter AI. But there's a great website that we actually manage called Staff, staf.ai. And we have a list of somewhere close to 200 different AI agents that are on the market we're checking out. Some of them are free, some of them are open source, some of them are paid, some of them are premium. But I'm happy to link that in the chat.
Nice. And so David asks, do we have visual editors to build AI agents? We got some. This is one thing I want to, do we have low code? I want some no code multi-agent builders to sort of give people the idea. Do these things exist yet as far as you're seeing? Where can we find these?
One of our favorites is called Gumloop, formerly known as Agent Hub. It's a very, very simple, very powerful agent builder that just lets you kind of stitch these things together as a graph. So Gumloop is a fantastic alternative.
Gumloop, okay. Any that you know of, Wiz? Any sort of low-code, no-code agent tools? I know this is something we chat about relatively frequently.
Gotta shout out our boys, LangFlow, of course.
LangFlow, yeah.
Also, for like a paid premium, constructor for conversational applications, including agents, VoiceFlow is something that exists that has that kind of like you build a flow chart, you get an agent out the other side, and I think Cohere has some simple version of this that they're either thinking about or have in some primitive form. The big ideas is like we talked about this in the LangFlow event where it's like they are just they're flow charts, so you should be able to hook them up to a flow chart generator and away you go, as long as the inputs and outputs work out. So
the LangGraph event, we might do one on LangGraph soon. Right. Yeah. That's right. If you can draw the flow chart, you can make the.
That's right.
You can make the agentic. All right. So that's a wrap for Q&A, guys. Alex, I wanted to offer you the opportunity to shout out anything you'd like to everybody know about, anything you'd like them to like and subscribe to. Where can they find you, etc.
Absolutely. Would really love for everyone to check us out on GitHub. Check out AgentOps. Give us a star. If you want to see something, please leave an issue. We're very, very attentive to that. Also, our Discord channel is popping off. We always share projects, share learnings, super active in there. And you can follow me on Twitter or X at Alex Riedman. Also very active on there. I share a lot of cool projects, demos, videos about AI agents in action, hackathons in the San Francisco ecosystem. Just get in touch in any of those places.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. And thanks, Wiz. AgentOps, everybody. So thanks for joining us today. And if you enjoyed this sesh, definitely like and subscribe. We'll be on YouTube again next Wednesday. We're going down deep into the transformer, talking about decoding at an even deeper level what exactly happens to the logics to predict the next token, and where does things get interesting as we decode the output of a decoder stack. Just like Alex said, join the Discord community at AgentOps. If you're not yet in the AIM community, we'd love to have you. Building, shipping, and sharing is going on all the time. We meet on Monday. I lead the session. You can come meet me every Monday to get some accountability to build, ship, and share your next production LLM application. And if you're into accelerating your ability to build with these tools and these systems, check out the AI Engineering Bootcamp. Cohort 4 is coming up in August, and it's going to be slapping. It's going to be one of the best yet. We've extended the curriculum, and we're really, really excited about a number of new things that we're ready to roll out for the next cohort. That's a wrap for today, everybody. If you have feedback, please let us know. We'd love to hear what you want to learn next. And until next week, and over the holiday, keep building, shipping, and sharing. And we will certainly do the same. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday live on YouTube. Bye, guys. Have a great week.